We are going to continue our reading of First They Killed My Father, which is the story of Lung Un, who was living in Cambodia with her family at the time. This is chapter 2, and it's called The Ung Family, April 1975. We have a big family, 9 in all: Pa, Ma, 3 boys, and 4 girls. Fortunately, we have a big apartment that houses everyone comfortably. Our apartment is built like a train, narrow in the front with rooms extending out to the back. We have many more rooms than the other houses I visited. The most important room in our house is the living room, where we often watch television together. It is very spacious and has an unusually high ceiling to leave room for the loft that my 3 brothers share as their bedroom. A small hallway leading to the kitchen splits Ma and Pa's bedroom from the room my 3 sisters and I share. The smell of fried garlic and cooked rice fills our kitchen when the family takes their usual places around a mahogany table where we each have our own high backed teak chair. From the kitchen ceiling, the electric fan spins continuously, carrying these familiar aromas all around our house, even into our bathroom. We are very modern. Our bathroom is equipped with amenities such as a flushing toilet, an iron bathtub, and running water. I know we are middle class because of our apartment and the possessions we have. Many of my friends live in crowded homes with only 2 or 3 rooms for a family of 10. Most well to do families live in apartments or houses above the ground floor. In Phnom Penh, it seems that the more money you have, the more stairs you have to climb to your home. Moss says the ground level is undesirable because dirt gets into the house and nosy people are always peeking in. So, of course, only poor people live on the ground level. The truly impoverished live in makeshift tents in areas where I have never been allowed to wander. Sometimes on the way to the market with Ma, I catch brief glimpses of these poor areas. I watch with fascination as children with oily black hair wearing old dirty clothes run up to our cyclo in their bare feet. Many look about the same size as me as they rush over with naked younger siblings bouncing on their backs. Even from afar, I see red dirt covers their faces, nestling in the creases of their necks and under their fingernails. Holding up small wooden carvings of the Buddha, oxen, wagons, and miniature bamboo flutes with one hand, they balance oversized woven straw baskets on their heads or straddled on their hips and plead with us to buy their wares. Some have nothing to sell and approach us murmuring with extended hands. Every time, before I can make out what they say, the cyclo's rusty bell clangs noisily, forcing the children to scurry out of our way. There are many markets in Phnom Penh, some big and others small, but their products are always similar. There is the Central Market, the Russian Market, the Olympic Market, and many others. Where people go to shop depends on which market is the closest to their house. Pa told me the Olympic Market was once a beautiful building. Now its lackluster facade is gray with mold and pollution, and its walls cracked from neglect. The ground that was once lush and green, filled with bushes and flowers, is now dead and buried under outdoor tents and food carts where thousands of shoppers traverse every day. Under the bright green and blue plastic tents, vendors sell everything from fabrics with stripes, paisley, and flowers to books in Chinese, Khmer, English, and French. Cracked green coconuts, tiny bananas, orange mangoes, and pink dragon fruit are on sale, as are delicacies such as silver squid, their beady eyes watching their neighbors, and teams of brown tiger shrimp crawling in white plastic buckets. Indoors, where the temperature is usually 10 degrees cooler, well groomed girls in starched shirts and pleated skirts perch on tall stools behind glass dolls displaying gold and silver jewelry. Their ears, necks, fingers, and hands are heavy with yellow 24-karat gold jewels as they beckon you over to their counters. A couple of feet across from the women behind featherless chickens hanging from hooks, men in bloody aprons raise their cleavers and cut into slabs of beef with the precision of many years' practice. Farther away from the meat vendors, fashionable youths with thin Elvis Presley sideburns in bell bottom pants and corduroy jackets play loud Cambodian pop music from their 8-track tape players. The songs and the shouting vendors bounce off of each other, all vying for your attention. Okay, so an 8-track tape. So an 8-track tape, my mother had one. It's about this big, and it was like a rectangle, and if you've ever seen a tape cassette, which was only about this big, it has two spools in it, and then the ribbon would go across the top. An 8 track was like that, only you couldn't see inside. You couldn't see inside to the see the spools turning. So I was talking about an 8 track tape, and you put it into this little machine, and it goes and it plays music. Um, and so 8 tracks were the precursors of the little cassette tapes that you would put in a cassette machine, and then we moved on to CDs, discs. So and now we just use our phones. So here we go. Lately, Ma had stopped taking me to the market with her, but I still wake up early to watch as she sets her hair in hot rollers and applies her makeup. I plead with her to take me as she slips into her blue silk shirt and maroon sarong. I beg her to buy me cookies while she puts on her gold necklace, ruby earrings, and bracelets. After dabbing perfume around her neck, Ma yells to our maid to look after me and leaves for the market. Because we do not have a refrigerator, Ma shops every morning. Ma likes it this way because everything we eat each day is at its freshest. The pork, beef, and chicken she brings back is put in a trunk-sized cooler filled with blocks of ice bought from the ice shop down the street. Ice shop. When she returns, hot and fatigued from a day of shopping, the first thing she does, following Chinese culture, is to take off her sandals and leave them at the door. She then stands in her bare feet on the ceramic tile floor and breathes a sigh of relief as the coolness of the tile flows through the soles of her feet. At night, I like to sit out on our balcony with Pa and watch the world below us pass by. From our balcony, most of Phnom Penh looms only 2 or 3 stories high, with few buildings standing as tall as 8. The buildings are narrow, closely built, as the city's perimeter is longer than it is wide, stretching 2 miles along the Tonle Sap River. The city owes its ultra modern look to the French colonial buildings that are juxtaposed with the dingy, soot covered ground level houses. In the dark, the world is quiet and unhurried as streetlights flicker on and off. Restaurants close their doors and food carts disappear into side streets. Some cyclo drivers climb into their cyclo to sleep, while others continue to pedal around looking for fares. Sometimes, when I feel brave, I walk over to the edge of the railing and look down at the lights below. When I'm very brave, I climb onto the railing, holding onto the banister very tightly. With my whole body supported by the railing, I dare myself to look at my toes as they hang at the edge of the world. As I look down at the cars and bicycles below, a tingling sensation rushes to my toes, making them feel as if 1,000 little pins are gently pricking them. Sometimes I just hang there against the railing, letting go of the banister altogether, stretching my arms up high above my head, my arms loose and flapping in the wind. I pretend that I am a dragon flying high above the city. The balcony is a special place because it's where Pa and I often have important conversations. When I was small, much younger than I am now, Pa told me that in a certain Chinese dialect, my name Lung translates into dragon. He said that dragons are the animals of the gods, if not gods themselves. Dragons are very powerful and wise and can often see into the future. He also explained that, like in the movies, occasionally 1 or 2 bad dragons can come onto Earth and wreak havoc on the people, though most act as our protectors. When Kim was born, I was out walking, Pa said a few nights ago. All of a sudden, I looked up and saw these beautiful puffy white clouds moving toward me. It was as if they were following me. Then the clouds began to take the shape of a big, fierce looking dragon. The dragon was 20 or 30 feet long, had 4 little legs and wings that spread half its body length. 2 curly horns grew out of its head and shot off in opposite directions. Its whiskers were 5 feet long and swayed gently back and forth as if doing a ribbon dance. Suddenly it swooped down next to me and stared at me with its eyes, which were as big as tires. You will have a son, a strong and healthy son, who will grow up to do many wonderful things. And that is how I heard of the news about Kim. Pa told me the dragon visited him many times, and each time it gave him messages about our births. So here I am, my hair dancing about like whiskers behind me, and my hands flapping like wings, flying above the world until Pa summons me away. Ma says I ask too many questions. When I ask what Pa does at work, she tells me he is a military policeman. He has 4 stripes on his uniform, which means he makes good money. Ma then said that someone once tried to kill him by putting a bomb in our trash can when I was 1 or 2 years old. I have no memory of this, and I ask, Why would someone want to kill him? I asked her. When the planes started dropping bombs in the countryside, many people moved to Phnom Penh. Once here, they could not find work and they blamed the government. These people didn't know Paul, but they thought all officers were corrupt and bad, so they targeted all the high ranking officers. What are bombs? Who's dropping them? You'll have to ask Paul that, she replied. Later that evening, out on the balcony, I asked Paul about the bombs dropping in the countryside. He told me that Cambodia is fighting a civil war and that most Cambodians do not live in cities but in rural villages, farming their small plot of land. And bombs are metal balls dropped from airplanes. When they explode, the bombs make craters in the earth the size of small ponds. The bombs kill farming families, destroy their land, and drive them out of their homes. Now, homeless and hungry, these people come to the city seeking shelter and help. Finding neither, they are angry and take it out on all officers in the government. His words made my head spin and my heart beat rapidly. Why are they dropping the bombs? I asked him. Cambodia is fighting a war that I do not understand, and that is enough of your questions, he said, and he became quiet. The explosion from the bomb in our trash can knocked down the walls of our kitchen, but luckily no one was hurt. The police never found out who put the bomb there. My heart is sick at the thought that someone actually tried to hurt Paul. If only these new people in the city could understand that Paul is a very nice man, someone who's always willing to help others, they would not want to hurt him. Paul was born in 1931 in Tro Nuon, a small rural village in the Kampong Cham province. By village standards, his family was well to do, and Paul was given everything he needed. When he was 12 years old, his father died, and his mother remarried. Paul's stepfather was often drunk and would physically abuse him. At 18, Paul left home and went to live in a Buddhist temple to get away from his violent home and further his study and eventually become a monk. He told me that during his life as a monk, wherever he walked, he had to carry a broom and dustpan to sweep the path in front of him so as not to kill any living things by stepping on them. After leaving the monastic order to marry Ma, Pa joined the police force. He was so good he was promoted to the Cambodian Royal Secret Service under Prince Norodom Sihanouk. As an agent, Paul worked undercover and posed as a civilian to gather information for the government. He was very secretive about his work. Thinking he could fare better in the private sector, he eventually quit the force to go into business with friends. After Prince Sihanouk's government fell in 1970, he was conscripted into the new government of Lon Nol. Though promoted to a major by the Lon Nol government, Paul said he did not want to join, but he had to, or he would risk being persecuted, branded a traitor, and perhaps even killed. Why? Is it like this in other places? I asked him. No, he says, stroking my hair. You ask a lot of questions. Then the corner of his mouth turns upside down and his eyes leave my face. When he speaks again, his voice is weary and distant. In many countries, it's not that way, he says. In a country called America, it is not that way. Where is America? It's a place far, far away from here, across many oceans. And in America, Pa, you would not be forced to join the army? No. There are two political parties that run the country. One side is called the Democrats, the other side is called the Republicans. During their fights, whichever side wins, the other side has to look for different jobs. For example, if the Democrats win, the Republicans lose their jobs and often have to go elsewhere to find new jobs. It is not this way in Cambodia now. If the Republicans lost their fights in Cambodia, they would all have to become Democrats or risk punishment. Our conversation is interrupted when my oldest brother joins us on the balcony. Meng is 18 and adores us younger children. Like Paul, he is very soft spoken, gentle, and giving. Meng is a responsible, reliable type who was the valedictorian of his class. Paul just bought him a car, and it seems he uses it to drive his books around instead of girls. But Meng does have a girlfriend, and they are to be married when he returns from France with his degree. He was to leave for France on April 14 to go college, but because the 13th was New Year's, Paul let him stay for the celebration. While Meng is the brother we look up to, Koi is the brother we fear. Koi is 16 and more interested in girls and karate than books. His motorcycle is more than a transportation vehicle, it is a girl magnet. He fancies himself extremely cool and suave, but I know that he is mean. In Cambodia, if the father is busy with work and the mother is busy with babies and shopping, the responsibility of disciplining and punishing the younger siblings often falls on the oldest child. In our family, because none of us fear Meng, this role falls to Koi, who is not easily dissuaded by our charms or excuses. Even though he's never carried out his threat to hit us, we all fear him and always do what he says. My oldest sister, Kiev, is already beautiful at 14. Ma says she will have many men seeking her hand in marriage and can pick anyone she wants. However, Ma also says that Kiev has the misfortune to like to gossip and argue too much. This trait is not considered ladylike. As Ma sets to work shaping Kiev into a great lady, Pa has more serious worries. He wants to keep her safe. He knows that people are so discontent they are taking their anger out on the government officers' families. Many of his colleagues' daughters have been harassed on the streets or even kidnapped. Pa is so afraid something will happen to her that he has two military policemen follow her everywhere she goes. Kim, whose name in Chinese means gold, is my 10-year-old brother. Ma nicknamed him the little monkey because he is small, agile, and quick on his feet. He watches a lot of Chinese martial arts movies and annoys us with his imitations of the movie's monkey style. I used to think he was weird, but having met other girls with brothers his age, I realized that older brothers are all the same. Their whole purpose for being is to pick on you and provoke you. Chow, my yes, thank you for doing that on video. Chow, my older sister, my three by 3 years, is the complete opposite of me. Her name means gem in Chinese. At 8, she is quiet, shy, and obedient. Ma is always comparing us and asking why I cannot behave nicely like her. Unlike the rest of us, Chow takes after Pa and has unusually dark skin. My older brothers kid her about how she really isn't one of us. They tease her about how Pa found her abandoned near our trash can and adopted her out of pity. I am next in line, and at 5, I am already as big as Chow. Most of my siblings regard me as being spoiled and a troublemaker, but Pa says I am really a diamond in the rough. Being a Buddhist, Pa believes in vision, energy fields, seeing people's aura, and things other people might view as superstitious. An aura is a color that your body exudes and tells the observer what kind of person you are. Blue means happy, pink is loving, and black is mean. He says though most cannot see it, all people walk around in a bubble that emits a very clear color. Pa tells me that when I was born, he saw a bright red aura around me, which means I will be a passionate person. To that, Ma told him all babies are born red. Geek is my younger sister who is 3 years old. In Chinese, geek means jade, the most precious and loved of all gems to Asians. She is beautiful and everything she does is adorable, including the way she drools. The elders are always pinching her chubby cheeks and making them pink, which they say is a sign of great health. I think it is a sign of great pain. Despite this, she is a happy baby. I was the cranky one. As Meg and Pa talk, I lean against the railing and look at the movie theater across the street from our apartment building. I go to a lot of movies, and because of who Pa is, the theater owner lets us kids in for free. When Pa goes with us, he always insists we pay for our tickets. From our balcony, I can see a big billboard over the theater portraying this week's movie. The billboard shows a large picture of a pretty young woman with wild, messy hair and tears streaming down her cheeks. Her hair, at a closer inspection, is actually many little writhing snakes. The background depicts villagers throwing stones at her as she runs away while trying to cover her head with a traditional Khmer scarf called a kroma. The street below me is quiet now, except for the sound of straw brooms sweeping the day's litter into small piles on side streets. Moments later, an old man and a young boy by with a large wooden cart. While the man accepts a few sheets of reel from the storefront owner, the boy shovels the garbage onto the cart. After they are done, the old man and the boy pull the cart to the next pile of garbage. Inside our apartment, Kim, Chow, Geek, and Ma sit watching television in the living room while Koi, and Kiev do their homework. Being a middle class family means that we have a lot more money and possessions than many others do. When my friends come over to play, they all like our cuckoo clock. And while many people on our street do not have a telephone, and though I am not allowed to use one, we have two. In our living room, we have a very tall glass cabinet where Ma keeps a lot of plates and little ornaments, but especially all the delicious, pretty candies. When Ma is in the room, I often stand in front of the cabinet, my palms pressing flat against the glass, drooling at the candies. I look at her with pleading eyes, hoping she'll feel bad and give me some. Sometimes this works, but other times she chases me away with a swat to the bottom, complains about my dirty handprints on her glass, and says that I can't have the candies because they are for guests. Aside from our money and possessions, middle class families, from what I can see, have a lot more leisure time. While Pa goes off to work and we children to school every morning, Ma does not have too much to do. We have a maid who comes to our house every day to do the laundry, cooking, and cleaning. Unlike other children, I don't have to do any chores because our maid does them for us. Hmm, we need a maid. However, I do work hard because Paul makes us go to school all the time. Each morning, as Chow, Kim, and I walk to school together, we see many children not much older than I am in the streets selling their mangoes, plastic flowers made from colorful straws, and naked pink plastic Barbie dolls. Loyal to my fellow kids, I always buy from the children and not the adults. I begin my school day in a French class. In the afternoon, it's Chinese, and in the evening, I am busy with my Khmer class. I do this 6 days a week, and on Sunday, I have to do my homework. Paul tells us every day that our number one priority is to go to school to learn to speak many languages. He speaks fluent French and says that's how he's able to succeed in his career. I love listening to Paul speak French to his colleagues, and that's why I like learning the language, even if the teacher is mean and I don't like her. Every morning she makes us stand single file facing her, holding our hands straight out. She inspects our nails to see if they are clean, and if not, she hits our hands with her pointing stick. Sometimes she won't let me go to the bathroom until I ask permission in French. Madame, I cannot speak French. Anyway, she asked to go to the bathroom. The other day, she threw a piece of chalk at me because I was falling asleep. The chalk hit me on my nose, and everyone laughed at me. I just wish she would teach us the language and not be so mean. I don't enjoy going to school all the time, so I occasionally skip school and stay at the playground all day. But I don't tell Pa. One thing I do like about school is the uniform I get to wear this year. My uniform consists of a white shirt with puffy short sleeves and a short blue pleated skirt. I think it is very pretty, though sometimes I worry that my skirt is too short. A few days ago, while I was playing hopscotch with my friends, a boy came over and tried to lift up my skirt. I was so angry that I pushed him really hard, harder than I thought I could. He fell and I ran away. My knee's weak. I think the boy is afraid of me now. Most Sundays after we've finished all our homework, Paul rewards us by taking us swimming at the club. I love to swim, but I am not allowed in the deep end. The pool at the club is very big, so even in the shallow end there is a plenty of room to play and splash water in Chow's face. After Ma helps me put on my bathing suit, which is a very short pink dress with the legs sewn in, she and Pa go to the second floor and have their lunch. With Kiev keeping an eye on us, Pa and Ma wave from their table behind the glass window. This is the first time I saw a barang. Chow, he is so big and white. I stopped splashing water long enough to whisper to her. He's a barang. Barang means white person. Chow says with a smirk, trying to show off her age. I stare at the barang as he walks onto the diving board. He is more than a foot taller than Pa, with very hairy long arms and legs. He has a long, angular face and a tall, thin nose like a hawk. His white skin is covered with small black, brown, and even red dots. He wears only underwear and a tan rubber cap on his head, which makes him look bald. He dives off the diving board, enters the water effortlessly, and creates very little splashing. As we watch the barang float on his back in the water, Kiev chides Chow for giving me the wrong information. Dipping her freshly painted red toenails in and out of the water, she tells us barang means he's French, because the French have been in Cambodia so long we call all white people barang. But they can be from many other countries, including America. All right, so that was a lot.